the SASH Resource Library. I'm Rebecca Bomann, founder of SASH. Hi, I'm Rebecca Bomann from the SASH program. Every week, people call our company with questions about the home sale process for their senior loved ones or for themselves, and so we've designed this video series to help answer some of the questions involved in the home sale. So today's little video is about what are the typical costs involved in selling a home. Wouldn't it be great if you could sell a home for $200,000 or $400,000 or $80,000 and just walk away with every penny of that sale price? That would be great. Unfortunately, there are a lot of selling costs involved in the sale of a home, and that's what we're going to discuss today. You can pretty much break them down into 4 different categories. Number 1 is commission for the real estate agents. Number 2 are concessions, which we'll talk about. Number 3 is the transfer tax or excise tax for the sale. And number 4 are typical closing costs. So let's start at the top. The commission is what a real estate agent is typically paid for representing the seller or the buyer in the real estate transaction. Typically, the listing agent is the agent that puts the home on the market and represents the seller. The selling agent or the buyer's agent represents the buyer. Each of them get 3% of the sale price of a home. So if we were going to have a home sell for about $200,000, then that would be $12,000 or 6%, $6,000 to one agent and $6,000 to the other agent. That's a typical commission. Now, if you're selling a mobile home, those commissions can be a little bit higher depending on the city and the state. But here where we are, it's 5% on each side, or a total commission of 10% of the sale price of the home. So that's the first cost. The second cost that we talked about are concessions. Now there's 3 kinds of concessions. One of them is called a price concession. That's if you have your home listed for $200,000 and the buyer comes in and offers you $190,000 for your home. That would be a $10,000 price concession. Another form of concession is an inspection concession. Now, say your home looks lovely and you've got it ready for the market. A buyer comes and makes an offer. Well, they're going to come in and they're going to do an inspection. And usually the inspector finds repairs or things that need to be replaced around the home. And the buyer has the right to ask you, as the seller, to make those repairs or replacements. Those are inspection concessions. And even if you have a home in great shape, usually the inspector finds things that need to be done. One time we did a remodel that was a $50,000 remodel, and the buyer still found over $4,000 of inspection concessions that she wanted us to take care of before closing. So the seller, that would be you if you're selling your home, takes care of those inspection concessions, or they can just offer to give the buyer money and have the buyer take care of it themselves. A third form of concession is what we call a closing cost concession. So the buyer may come in and offer $190,000 for your home, but then they say, I'd really like it if you would pay $2,000 or $3,000 of my closing costs as the buyer. That's a closing cost concession. Now, you're probably asking yourself, we have price concessions, we have closing cost concessions, we have inspection concessions. Do I have to pay all of these concessions to my buyer? If the seller refuses to do any of the concessions, the buyer can just go look for another home. You're seeing a lot of sellers do these concessions on price, inspection, or closing cost. So we've talked about commissions and concessions. The third category is the excise tax or transfer tax, which is the tax that is charged to the seller for selling a piece of property. Now, 35 states around the United States have transfer tax or excise tax, and this can vary from 0.1% of the sale price of the home up to 2.2% of the sale price of the home. It really depends on the area. But most of them do charge that tax. So let's say for easy math that it's 1.5%. So if you were going to sell your home at $200,000, 1.5% of that would be $3,000 in an excise tax or a transfer tax. So you can see we're not very close to our original sale price with all of the different things that come out of the net proceeds in a typical sale. There's one more category, and that is the closing costs. The buyers have typical closing costs, but the seller also has closing costs. What the seller pays are things like half of the escrow fee, recording fees, maybe seller's title insurance, and you can guesstimate your closing costs and what they're going to be as the seller by just doing a quick calculation. Your escrow office or your real estate office can tell you what your closing costs should be, and then you can just subtract that and know ahead of time what that's going to cost you. All right, let's do a little bit of quick math here to make sure that we've got our numbers right and we can get an accurate idea of what it would cost to sell a home. So say we started at a price of $200,000. Our buyer came and offered $190,000, so we've got a $10,000 price concession. So we're down to $190,000. Then as part of their offer, they want $2,000 back in closing costs to help them make the purchase. So we're down to $188,000. Then they have their inspection done and they make a big list of all the little repairs they want done around the home. The furnace checked, light fixtures replaced, the sewer scoped, and say it comes to $2,500. So now we're down to $185,500. Then if we take the real estate commission, you pay your agent and you also pay the buyer's agent 3% each. On a $190,000 sale price, that would be about $11,400. So now we're down to about $174,100. And then we've got the tax, the excise tax or the transfer tax of 1.5%. We'll just take that as a round number. 1.5% of $190,000 sale price is $2,850. So now our new subtotal is $171,250. And then we have our typical closing costs, which we say is about 1%, title insurance, escrow, recording fees. This would be about $1,900, 1% of our sale price. So now we've got a net proceeds of $169,350. Wow, that's a long ways from our original asking price of $200,000. We're ending up with less than $170,000. Now, of course, we're not even including here if you have done any remodel work to the home prior to putting it on the market. Those costs would also be incurred. And then once you've sold the home, of course, you're going to be moving and packing. That can also add some additional expenses. So your real net might be closer to $160,000. Now, this is just information for you so that when you go to list your home on the market and you pick your price, it's good to know what you'll actually be netting from the sale, especially if you have a mortgage that will also be subtracted, so that when you're deciding what you're going to do with the proceeds of your home sale, you know exactly how much money you have to work with, and you can have a realistic idea of what you can do with that money. So this has been just a quick summary of what are the typical closing costs in a home sale. Thanks so much for watching. Goodbye, and thanks for joining SASH for this segment of our educational videos.